Good evening, everyone, and buonasera. Thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate the Settimana della Lingua italiana nel Mondo and to explore the topic of slow food. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Fabienne Egli. I am the coordinator for public diplomacy and cultural affairs at the Consulate here in Atlanta. And I will be hosting this virtual event along with Consul General Peter Zimmerli and Italian professor Simona Muratore from Emory University. And before they will tell you more about the topic, I will just give you a few instructions about the Zoom call today and give you a brief overview of what we can expect tonight. So the program, we will start off with a few welcoming remarks by Consul General Peter Zimmerli. That will be followed by an introduction by Professor Simona Muratore, and then we'll hear from Peter Morich from the Slow Food Atlanta, and then Professor Muratore, she will give us some more introduction in what the student project was that is part of our event today, and will show us a video greeting by Mariano Masserini. He is part of the slow food movement or slow food chapter in the canton of Ticino in Switzerland. After that, we will hear the student presentations that the Emory students prepared for today, which will cover the history and principles of the slow food movement, the differences in Italy, Switzerland, and the United States. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the current appeal of this topic in times of COVID-19 and climate change. And last but not least, the future of the slow food movement. And at the very end, we have a quiz prepared for you and some amazing prizes. So make sure that you stay with us until the very end. Also, because we have a cooking video that was compiled by Yannick Germanier. He is the Swiss chef at the consulate in New York, and he sent us a little cooking tutorial for a polenta. So in terms of instructions, I would like to ask everyone to mute your microphones as always, and feel free to turn on your camera so we can see all your smiling faces and feel a little bit more connected in these times. I want to mention that the event is being recorded so that you know that. And then I would like to also invite you to use the chat function. Feel free to share your favorite Swiss dish and also send us your questions and comments in the chat so we can take those up later and discuss them after the student presentations. And now I will hand it over to our Consul General Peter Zimmerli.
Thank you, Fabienne. Buonasera a tutti gli amici della lingua italiana e agli amici della Svizzera. È un grande piacere per me di essere con voi per celebrare la settimana della lingua italiana e anche per celebrare il cibo, il slow food. Good evening to all of you, to all friends of the Italian language and friends of Switzerland. It is a great pleasure for me to be here with you today to celebrate the week of the Italian language and also to celebrate food, slow food. Yes, we will be talking about food tonight because food is part of the Italian lifestyle. It is what makes Italians happy. But let me start first with a few words about Switzerland. You most certainly know that in Switzerland, we have 4 different language regions. We speak German, which happens to be my mother tongue in the northern and eastern part of Switzerland. And French is spoken in the western part. And in the southeast, a minority of the Swiss people speak Romansh. And the south, the canton of Ticino, is where Italian is spoken. But with globalization and immigration, many Italians have immigrated to Switzerland and settled in all 4 parts of Switzerland. So you can hear people speak Italian all over Switzerland. This means in Switzerland, we do not have a common language that determines our identity, as it is the case in many other countries. Our cultural diversity is our identity. Hence, the principle of cultural diversity is of utmost importance for Switzerland, for the coexistence of different cultures in a confined space. It is so important that we have written it in our constitution. It is part of our understanding of the state. This diversity is a strength, but it is also a constant challenge. It is part of the political debate that from time to time, the question of national cohesion is raised. Differences of opinion between the individual language communities are part of the political discourse and our political culture. The challenge is to emphasize what is unifying in all differences and to find unity in diversity, together instead of side by side. So far, we have repeatedly succeeded in maintaining and developing this unity in diversity through dialogue and based on our democratic structures. This diversity is Switzerland's strength. From it, we draw the strength for cohesion. Respect for diversity encourages and demands a willingness to compromise and mutual consideration. Thus, our nation community, our identity is ultimately the result of a common political will. And this is the basis of Switzerland's success. Well, there's one point where we actually do not really compromise, and that is food. Each region in Switzerland is proud of its own food specialties. And food is very much part of the italianità, the Italian spirit. And Switzerland is proud of its own italianità. Italianità can be found in all areas of life. You can recognize it in art, in culture, fashion, even in cars, and of course in food. Italianità is lifestyle, design, food. And it is really worth to be celebrated. So to conclude, I really wish to thank Emory University for the excellent cooperation on this project. Emory has always been an outstanding partner for our events during the Italian Language Week. Especially Professor Muratore is doing everything possible to make this happen. Grazie mille, Professoressa. And with this, I'm happy to hand it over to you, Professor Muratore. Let's talk about slow food.
Hello, everyone. My name is Simona Muratore, and I'm very excited about this event because the slow food movement is a topic that I often teach in my classes with my students and with which I've been involved for many years since I was in Italy, since I was in my 20s. And so I'm very, very excited about this event, especially because the main protagonists of these events are the students of Italian at Emory University. On behalf of the French and Italian department, I would like to thank everyone for participating in this event, and in particular, Consul General Peter Zimmerli and Fabian Egli, for keeping alive the tradition of celebrating the Italian language with us in Atlanta, in the United States. I also would like to thank all my Italian colleagues, and in particular, Dr. Castaldo, assistant professor, is the new assistant professor in our department, and Alicia Moody, a senior Emory student who worked together on the translation and the subtitles for the welcoming video by Mariano Masserini that you will see later. And of course, a special thanks to the students in the intermediate Italian level who worked really hard for this event, with their presentation. And before I talk a little bit more about how the students worked on their presentation, I would like to invite to share a few words with us Peter Morich, the board chair of the Slow Food Atlanta. Peter Morich has been collaborating with Emory University for many years, and he has been a main guest speaker in Emory or in our classes, giving presentation about the slow food movement and also delicious tasting with vinegar, olive oil for the students. And Peter, would you like to share a few words with us?
Yes.
Peter Morich. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Simona. Thank you, the Honorary Council of Switzerland, for inviting us today. We're very excited to talk about slow food and to be part of this movement, a worldwide movement of 160 countries around the world. And started in Italy 30 years ago as a protest to the first McDonald's moving into Rome. And now we have more than 1 million followers and members around the world in 160 countries. So thank you, those of you that are part of slow food and those that are here today with an interest in slow food. We are involved in the collegiate. We have a long relationship with Emory University and also Spelman College. And we've run a number of events. We do have a Instagram account with our food justice group called SFATL Collegiate, where we have a group of college students that are doing work with slow food around Atlanta. We've put on food waste events at Emory. We brought Leah in from Sulfide who spent there. We do activities throughout the year. Now that we're under the COVID situation, we're moving to virtual. But we still spend a couple hours learning about slow food. We have an active book club, and we're working on our Slow Food for Thought, converting that to a virtual event, which is where we go behind the scenes with our artists and producers around town. So folks that make chocolate and pasta and ice cream and gelato and all sorts of great things. So Slow Food Atlanta has sent many delegates to Terra Madre, which happens every 2 years in Italy. Many of the delegates have come from the universities and from our communities. So farmers, chefs, activists, and educators. And right now, Terra Madre is going on worldwide for the next 6 months. So you can connect to Slow Food International and also through their YouTube channel to see live events that are going on around the world. So thank you for inviting us, and we welcome all of you to Slow Food.
Thank you, Peter. Maybe after, when we're going to do the question QA, you will help us answering the questions. So going back to the presentation of the students, 2 weeks ago, we had an event with Mariano Masserini from Slow Food Switzerland, Ticino in particular. And this event, we didn't invite you guys because it was all in Italian. So it was directed only to Italian speakers. And the students of 201, Italian 201, participated, asking questions and trying to understand, because Mariano Masserini was speaking very fast. It was like a real life experience for the students. And after that, they got together in 4 different groups. They tried to find 4 different topics that he talked about it. And one is the slow food history, how the slow food was born. Then the difference between the slow food in Italy, Switzerland, and United States. Then COVID-19 and slow food and climate change, actually. They touch a lot of climate changes and the food in general. And then about the future of slow food. So they got together, they translated the video They try to understand the video, and then they came up with their own presentations that now we are gonna watch. Thank you again, guys, for doing this work for us tonight.
Simona, do you mind if we go ahead and show the presentation from Mariano Masserini first?
Oh, yes, yes, I'm sorry, yes.
And then we'll go ahead with the presentations.
Yes, yeah.
Let me try to bring this up here. Okay. Can you see Mariano Masserini now on your screen? Okay, wonderful. So there are subtitles, and I hope you can see them. If not, then maybe Simona can help us translate it a little bit afterwards.
Buongiorno, saluto tutti i partecipanti alla Settimana della Lingua Italiana nel mondo e in particolare voi ad Atlanta. La Svizzera, voi sapete, è l'unico paese al mondo non di lingua italiana dove l'italiano figura come lingua ufficiale. L'italiano oggi è parlato nel cantone Ticino, dove mi trovo, in una parte del cantone dei Grigioni e da numerosi cittadini italiani che ancora oggi lavorano in Svizzera. L'italiano è una lingua viva e lo è tanto più, secondo me, lo è tanto più viva quando il suo insegnamento avviene non soltanto tramite i libri, ma anche grazie alla cucina, al cibo, alle tradizioni alimentari e culinarie che hanno fatto della cucina italiana un elemento culturale di successo esportato in tutto il mondo. Per questo saluto con particolare simpatia l'idea della professoressa Simona Muratore di esplorare la cultura italiana attraverso il cibo e in particolare attraverso anche l'approccio di slow food. Sapete, slow food che propone un cibo buono, pulito e giusto. 3 aggettivi che sembrano così semplici, che sembrano molto semplici, ma che in realtà hanno una portata fondamentale, oggi più che mai in questo momento di crisi sanitaria. 3 aggettivi che ci devono veramente impegnare per il futuro. Dalla città di Bellinzona invio a tutti voi ad Atlanta l'augurio di una settimana della lingua italiana che possa arricchire la mente, ma che possa anche stimolare le papille gustative di tutti voi.
Was everybody able to follow that? Wonderful, thank you for the sign. Yeah, so Mr. Masserini was not able to attend tonight because it's already past midnight in Switzerland, of course, but he sent us this cute little video. And now I will go ahead and pull up the student presentations. And we will start with the history and principles of the slow food movement.
Hey everyone, our group is going to be presenting on the history and most important principles of the slow food movement.
So the slow food movement was originally founded in Italy by Carlo Petrini. It began at a protest in front of a McDonald's opening in front of the Spanish Steps in the city of Rome. So he was actually originally a journalist, probably covering the event, but he found that, instead of picketing the fast food movement with signs, he just thought that he could do a lot more by starting the slow food movement, and that's where it all originally started.
So today, Irene Collin and Joseph Siodis are the co-presidents of the slow food movement in Switzerland. They both run with strong slow food principles. Some of the projects that they hope to implement are the Arc of Food, the Alliance of Chefs, and the slow food travel movement in Switzerland.
So in Italy, Agricola was the first organization that was founded by Carlo Petrini in 1983. Before Slow Food was founded in 1986, and then the Slow Food International Congress was hosted in Venice in 1990. In Switzerland, the slow food movement began in 1993. It had previously had activity in Ticino, the Italian-speaking canton of Switzerland, before then. But after 1993, they began to host slow food markets throughout the entire country of Switzerland.
So now there are over 160 worldwide countries with local chapters. And then within that, there are 1,500 local chapters. And I think that there are over 100,000 members worldwide of the slow food movement.
So why did it start? Originally in Italy, it was to resist the opening of a McDonald's at the Spanish Steps in Rome, like Hannah had mentioned. The purpose of the slow food movement was to defend regional traditions, good food, gastronomic pleasure, and a slow pace of life. The movement has expanded since to over 132 countries across the world. And in Switzerland, the slow food movement was created in 1933, and the Coop, which is a prevalent grocery store in Switzerland, played an important role in the growth of slow food in Switzerland in the 1990s.
The three most important principles of the slow food movement are good, clean, and fair. Good refers to the fresh and flavor seasonal diet and local culture and cuisine. Clean refers to the food production and consumption in a way that doesn't harm the environment or our health. And fair refers to accessible prices for consumers and fair pay for small scale producers.
Other important slow food principles include food and taste education, preserving biodiversity, and presenting themes. So slow food believes that food means pleasure, culture, and conviviality. Therefore, they encourage both adults and children to learn where their food comes from, how it was produced, and by whom. And these food and taste education lessons can be practical workshops and meals with producers, guided tastings, farm visits, or anything in between. And the image is an example of that. And in order for them to preserve biodiversity, they have founded the Slow Food Foundation for Biodiversity, which facilitates projects that defend local food traditions, and they protect food communities and preserve food biodiversity and promote quality artisanal products. For their themes, Slow Food is very active and vocal on a number of current issues affecting our current food system, such as food waste, slow meat, bees, and climate change, and they educate the audience on the topic, explain how they are taking action as an organization, and leave the audience with the call to action as well.
Grazie.
Ciao.
My group did the slow food movement in Italy and how that differs from the US and Switzerland. In Italy, Carlo Petrini started the slow food movement in 1986 when the first McDonald's was about to open in Rome, which prompted a lot of backlash from Italians who hated the idea of food being made and consumed so carelessly. By 1989, the Slow Food Manifesto was signed in Paris, which essentially stated that not everything in life must be done quickly and efficiently, and something like food should be a pleasurable experience. More than simply eating food slowly, though, the movement encourages local farming and sustainable consumption. To Italians, it was particularly important that biodiversity was protected, which led to laws to safeguard against extinction and erosion based on three slow food concepts of local resources, guardian farmers, and food communities. The movement was so popular in Italy that 4 years after the manifesto was signed, Switzerland's own slow food movement began. Switzerland's and Italy's movements were similar because both wanted good, sustainable food and for ingredients to be supplied by local farming, so that pollution associated with shipping food to faraway places could be avoided. The Swiss emphasized the importance of local farming by creating programs to help farmers supply their resources to the Swiss who wanted to buy them. Switzerland's programs were made both to help farmers supply Switzerland with their products, but also to educate people on healthy eating. Switzerland's key differences from Italy are the fact that it isn't as widespread as it is in Italy. For example, most people in Italy would probably have heard of slow food, but in Switzerland there are only about 3,500 sponsors. Although Switzerland's numbers are small, it is still a bigger movement than in the United States. The American slow food movement began in 2000 in Brooklyn, using the same three principles of good, clean, and fair food, and today has over 150 chapters across the country. It encourages local and sustainable consumption and also the community's importance in making the change. The US has its own specific programs, such as the Youth Network and National School Garden Project, which both aim to change how children see food rather than have adults unlearn years of unhealthy consumption. The key difference between the US and Italy or Switzerland is that the entire fast food movement was born here, leading to capitalistic agriculture that caused damage to biodiversity by way of pollution or overworking the soil. It's a harder sell in America to teach about slow food because doing everything quickly is so ingrained into the American mindset, and because it is one of the easiest countries to get fast food in, with more than 200,000 locations nationally and valued at $256 billion. But with COVID and the resurgence of a slower way of life, there is still hope for Americans. Grazie mille.
Thank you. And please remember, if you have any questions about any of the presentations, feel free to share those in the chat function so we can take them up after the presentations. Now we will hear about the slow food movement in times of COVID-19 climate change.
Our group explored the current appeal of the slow food movement considering COVID-19 and climate change, as well as what we can do to help out. Overall, COVID-19 has many negative consequences on the movement. Due to the lockdown measures taken to slow the spread of the virus, the travel restrictions have entire harvests at risk as seasonal workers cannot reach the fields. Food insecurity is present, and farmers and others in the agricultural aspects are harmed by the closure and restrictions on the informal and open air markets. Moreover, the pandemic is deeply increasing already existing inequalities, as the coronavirus crisis will impact the access and availability of food as well as household income for a large proportion of the population, which pushes more than 250 million people to the brink of starvation. Additionally, with school closures, low-income families are hit hard as millions of children have lost access to their daily free school meal, and the recession makes access to healthy foods even more difficult. However, in response to this crisis, the slow food movement started the Slow Food Solidarity campaign. This campaign is international and essentially has developed online maps that make it easier to find and support small-scale producers and farmers. Some groups have started doing home deliveries, primarily focusing on the most vulnerable populations. As climate change is a serious issue, with plant and animal life cycles being negatively affected by the steady rise in global temperatures, it is critical for action to be taken. If nothing is done, food production will be compromised. It is predicted that the production rates for corn, rice, and grain will decrease by 2% every 10 years, increasing famines across third world countries. The consequences of global warming increases exponentially over time, so actions must be made in order to counter the rising impact of climate change. This graph visualizes the steady increase of the heat content of the ocean's surface. Climate change is pertinent to the slow food movement, as the climate fluctuations can impact the production, storage, and distribution of the food markets. In terms of production, the increase in temperature and output of carbon dioxide notably will stimulate the appearance of various new diseases. Climate change is predicted to decrease crop yields by 2%, while the demand for food will continue to increase by 14%. As supply decreases but demand increases, there will be major shortages and other global issues. The prices of foods such as rice and grains may end up increasing by 60 to 70%. By the year 2050, global hunger will increase by 20%, climate change will drive people to migrate to more fertile lands, and food waste will also contribute to climate change, as 1.3 billion tons of food are wasted every year and only a third is made back. With climate change presenting possible global issues, slow food can help lessen its effects. Slow food is implementing agroecology, which is based on recycling the nutrients and synergy from farming of plants and animals to combat climate change. Slow food has various organizations in order to spread concern and change the world. These include Change the Menu, the Slow Meat Campaign, and the Arc of Taste projects. So what can Georgia residents do to incorporate slow food principles into their life? You can vote with your fork. This includes buying local foods, By supporting local and small-scale farmers, you are incorporating slow food principles into your life. Below are the names of farmers markets and local farms that you can visit and support. It is also helpful to know what's in season. These are some vegetables and fruits that are currently in season. You can keep these in mind the next time you shop for groceries. You can avoid processed foods with long ingredient lists, and finally eat whole foods, which are fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, milk, and some dairy products, and minimally processed foods. Here is a Georgia harvest calendar, and for the Georgia residents here, feel free to take a screenshot or search it up for your own state in order to incorporate slow food principles into your life starting today.
The slow food movement in the coming years is planning on becoming even more inclusive. They want the ideas of the movement, food being good, clean, and fair, to be able to be understood by a diverse range of people, perhaps even people who are unaware of the slow food movement at all. The slow food movement also wants to create more local action and see more change on the local level to shape the future of food. The movement also wants to encourage a more open flow of ideas so that they can see new participation in the movement.
When I asked Mariano where he sees the slow food movement in 10 years, he brought up a very factual statement. With the state of the world right now, we have no idea of predicting what the future looks like. Despite this uncertainty, he comments on how he hopes that the movement will have expanded in more parts of the world through bringing communities together. The idea for now is to have a group of people who have a project that respects the criteria of the slow food movement and use the slow food's support to expand this concept beyond the places that we see it growing in now.
The slow food movement is invested in promoting cleaner, better, and more accessible foods as to ensure their quality. Additionally, in its efforts to promote healthier and better foods, the slow food movement also hopes that people will consume more responsibly in the future, as to not put in danger wildlife habitats because of human consumption of foods, such as fish, for example. It also hopes to find alternatives to safe and natural foods that could satisfy human demand.
In Uganda recently, there has been a big increase in urbanization, which has led to high levels of undernutrition and food insecurity in these urban areas. Right now, the slow food movement is working with the Youth Network in Uganda to help citizens grow urban gardens in order to increase access to fresh fruits and vegetables among families and localized communities. This can be a sustainable way to improve nutrition, income generation, and ecological advancement in Uganda.
Thank you so much for these wonderful presentations. I really loved all of them, and especially the nice list of seasonal fruit and vegetables. Maybe someone can actually share that in the chat. That would be nice. And now we will take some questions. Let me see what we've got in the chat. There's a question. Bea Schmid, what is the best vegetable to plant in my garden? Anyone wants to take up that question? Simona, Peter?
What do you like to eat is the answer. So whatever you like to eat, that's the best thing to plant in your garden.
Make it fresh. Thank you. Any other opinions or other questions? There's the Georgia harvest calendar in the chat, so if anybody is interested, have a look there. How large is the slow food community in Atlanta? Maybe that's another one for you, Peter.
You know, we have 6,000 people on our email list. We typically, you know, when we were doing live events, we would sell them out very quickly. So there's a lot of folks around. There's a you know, a lot of folks that support farmers markets, support local restaurants, support farmers. artisan producers. We've got quite a great community. So it's a big community here in Atlanta. And we also work, our programming is based on good, clean, and fair. So in good, it's a lot of taste education. In clean, we're talking about food waste and slow meat. And fair, we're doing work around food justice in Atlanta. So we try to cover all three of those in our programming. And right now we're making a shift to virtual. We just brought on a new board member who is in charge of global events at CARE USA. And she just joined our board this month, and we're planning for our fourth quarter annual meeting, which will be virtual like this. And so we're looking forward to that. So for the next 12 months to 18 months, we're going to be in a virtual kind of focus. And then we'll go back to being in community with each other, with our farmers, with our chefs, with our restaurants, with our producers, artisan producers around town. There you go.
Thank you very much, Peter, for sharing these insights. There's another question that I really like. How can students participate in the slow food movement if they have oftentimes a very fast-paced life due to studies and extracurriculars? May I ask Simona, do you have anything to share there?
At Emory University, we are lucky because we have the Slow Food Emory clubs, the students club. So often they used to, before the pandemic, they used to organize events at Emory, and usually the slow food club event at Emory are at night around dinner time. So it's a good break from your study to go and enjoy some food and learn about what they are doing, about the activities that they are doing. And we have students in in the tour, Victoria, who couldn't be present tonight at the presentation, and she is in the board of the Slow Food Emory. So the best things to do is to contact the Slow Food Club at Emory, or even the Slow Food Atlanta organization, and trying to squeeze a meal or a food tasting or in between your studies. And then later, after you graduate, you can be more active.
Wonderful, thank you, Simona. So I think we kind of covered the question with the food and taste education. The question about, is there a specific website in which I can find more slow food virtual events? I actually came across quite a few events on Eventbrite, and I think also the slow food chapters are a good source there, but happy to let anybody else give other recommendations.
There's a couple sites. Slow Food Atlanta, which is slowfoodatlanta.org, has local events that we're doing. You can go to Slow Food USA, and you can find national events that they're doing. These are all virtual right now. Also, during the next 6 months, there'll be events going on for Terra Madre around the world, which is education, and you'll learn about other food communities around the world. Also, you can find through their YouTube channel. They just had some local Georgia people on with Alice Waters and Leah Penniman from Farming While Black and Soulfire Farm just last Sunday. So there's different. Those are 3 good areas to start with in terms of some virtual events that are going on.
I've just noticed that Victoria, you asked the question about the events, and Victoria is the board member of the Slow Food Emory. So another way to do it is you organize with the club some event. You said that you wanted to invite some slow food representative. You can start with Peter Morich if you want to. And then we can go, Colleen, right? Please, can you introduce yourself, Colleen?
Yes, I'm Colleen Morich, and I am the education chair for the board of Slow Food Atlanta. And in that, I would love for you to see my 50 images of lexicon of sustainability that were given to me by the artist and that teach the vocabulary of sustainability. And I had put those at Emory, any college, any university, any school, any event, any birthday party, anywhere anybody wants them. But we have really used them well. Plus, I do a Slow Food 101. I've got one scheduled for 3-4 weeks from now. And I do one about every quarter. And it's very similar to what we're doing here. So we get to talk about everything there was happening, everything there is happening, and everything we want to happen when we can do that. So I'm also the school garden director of Slow Food Atlanta, and I sort of am watching Alice Waters and all the wonderful things she does in trying to help the schools that have gardens already to help them have the support they need and help. And we have lots of people that are members of Slow Food Atlanta that want to go to the schools and help with keeping the gardens well. So we have a lot of things like that going on too. But education is at the bottom of everything that I do for Slow Food. And I am a retired educator. And so it's a perfect set for me. I love it.
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Has anything been done in terms of food waste with the supermarkets by the same model that France adopted 3 years ago, in which food waste at the supermarket is deviated to the homeless?
I think in the US, there hasn't been any regulations that have been passed like France. There are some private organizations. Locally, there's an amazing organization called Gooder that is doing a lot of work around food waste. And I think they've been able to, over 1 million pounds in the last year, they've been able to move from food waste to actually being used. We ran an event at Emory with a panel of that are very passionate about it. Some of the nonprofits, Meals on Wheels, and some other folks are working with grocery stores and grocery chains in order to move food that would become food waste into usable food and get it out to folks that have hunger right now. But from a policy standpoint, the USA is not doing what other countries like France have done, which is make food waste illegal, which is an amazing, amazing project.
We also have a club, a students club at Emory, who is collecting the food waste from the canteen, the restaurants in the Emory campus. I'm not sure if they go at supermarkets and then they cook and then they bring these meals to the homeless, to a shelter or 2 or 3 shelters.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter and Simona. I have seen one more question about how to motivate people to plant in their garden. We've already heard a few things. Does anybody have any other recommendations or any initiatives that we should take?
We have 7 vegetable gardens at Emory, and I usually have students going do a walking tour of the gardens and then working in the garden. So they have to plant stuff. It's an activity that we have during one course that I teach. And the main things that they say is that once they put their hands in the dirt, and then because after they can eat the food that it's available, not the food that they pick up, and they can see they can taste the difference in the food. So that's, I think, the main thing that motivates somebody to plant their own garden is they buy vegetables at the store and eat the one that you plant yourself. It's much better. The quality is so much better, and it's fun, and it's good for depression, and it's good for so many things. Planting a garden. Unfortunately, I don't have a garden because I don't have a garden, but I have plants like Hannah said in the chat. Like I have basil, I have rosemary, all the things that all the herbs that I can grow. So that's my 2 cents.
That's a very good recommendation. Thank you so much also to Hannah for sharing that thought in the chat. And I think if we don't have any additional questions, we will go ahead in the program, and please feel free if you see any questions that have not been fully answered. Maybe Simona and Peter, you can go through and see if you wanted to answer any of those in the chat. And then I would move on to the highly anticipated quiz and prizes. And I will go ahead and share my screen again. So some of you may have come across our cooking video contest. Well, let me just say, people are busy in October, and we certainly understand that. Nonetheless, we think that your participation today is deserving of a chance to win these 2 great prizes that you can see on your screen. It's one is a high quality bread knife in the shape of the Ticino Alps from panoramaknife.ch. And the second one is a beautifully illustrated cookbook. It's called Swiss Cooking. It's in English by Helvetic Kitchen. You can find that online as well, and both generously donated from Switzerland. So let me tell you how you can win. We have 2 questions, and it's first time that we do this, so I hope we will manage. So we have 1 question for each of the prizes. One is about food, Swiss food, and the second one is about the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland. And it works like that. After I show the questions, you have 15 seconds to answer. So unless you happen to know the right answer, which I hope you don't, or I guess you don't, you will have to guess. So no Googling. And the correct answer, or the answer that gets closest to the correct answer, will win. And also, if we have multiple correct answers, the quicker one wins the prize. To submit your response, I would ask you to use the chat, and don't send your answer to everyone, just send it directly to Swiss CG Atlanta. So only the ones that go directly to us will be considered. So maybe you want to go ahead and already go into the chat function and select Swiss CG Atlanta. And then when everyone is ready, I will present the first question. So you will have 15 seconds, as I said, to answer. And then I will present the second question. You will have another 15 seconds. And following that second question, you will get to watch the cooking tutorial, because I will have to do the math and figure out who's the winner. And so, yeah, after that, we'll announce the 2 winners. And so if everyone is ready, is that the case? Okay. I don't hear anybody say no, so we'll go ahead and show you the first question, 15 seconds from now. What percentage of all the food consumed in Switzerland is being produced locally? All right, that's it. Time's up, and we'll move on to the next question. Question 2. What year did the Canton of Ticino join the Swiss Confederation? Maybe some of you might know that. And time's up for that one as well. We will go ahead and show you the cooking tutorial. Enjoy.
Welcome everyone. This week I represent you a recipe from Ticino. But first, follow me to the green market.
Next stop is 81st Street, next to the closing door.
All right. So everybody's curious who the winners are. And I have to say, some people got the right answers or got really, really close. I'm really impressed, unless you use Google. So let's see. For the first prize, the panorama knife we have, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Jamie
Weisberg.
Yeah, that is the winner. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So the correct answer here was 59%. And you were the first one to say 60%, which was the closest we got to. And then we have a second winner, and that is Bella Raquette. Bella, are you here?
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good. So you win the cookbook. And there the right answer was 1803. So actually several people got that right. So very good. Wonderful. And I would ask you, we have a couple minutes left. Maybe you can send me your email addresses in the chat directly to us so I can contact you tomorrow for the prizes. Any last words from Simona or Peter? Anybody wants?
Thank you very much. I think it was a fantastic event, and I love the video, the cooking show, and I love and I'm glad that the students got the prizes.
2 students. Oh, wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And, great. Let's do it again next year. I'm always here to celebrate the Italian language, and I love collaborating with you guys.
Thank you very much. Likewise, Simona. We really appreciate the partnership. And maybe if I can mention something else, we have a social media activity. We're on, it's actually the same name, Swiss CG Atlanta, and you can find questions on Instagram all week about the Italian speaking part of Switzerland. So take that opportunity to learn something about Switzerland and Italian Switzerland. And with that, I want to wish you all a very nice rest of your day and a very nice rest of your Settimana della Lingua Italiana. Thank you so much for participating, and see you soon, hopefully in person and otherwise virtually.
Ciao, ciao.
Yes.
Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you everyone for participating.
Grazie.
Ciao, grazie.
Morich, and thank you.
Ciao, ciao, grazie.
Ciao. Grazie.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for coming.
It's our pleasure.
Yes, of course.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.